Thank you for joining us today. I am here with Jim Lancer, who is taking us through an installation of Beacon Mobile Print. And he has promised me that it is very easy and quick to install, so quick that you can install Beacon Mobile Print and start using it before you can finish eating your lunch. I got hungry, so I already ate my lunch ahead of time, so I'm going to have to take your word for it.
Right.
Do you think you can do it before I finish drinking my glass of water?
If you sip really slowly.
Right, so I'll hand it off to you, Jim.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. What we're going to talk about today is the setup of Beacon Mobile Print. And we're going to look at it both from the perspective of the IT administrator and the end user. So before we jump into actually doing the installation, I wanted to give an overview of what the IT administrator's tasks look like. And this diagram gives you the 12-step program to get you from start to finish. So we'll start with step 1, which is saving the site encryption key, and we'll go all the way through step 12, which is inviting users.
Okay.
And the setup guide will walk us through each of these steps one by one. And once we finish the IT administrator perspective, we'll then flip hats and become an end user and walk through the experience of an employee. And theirs is much easier. They have 3 steps to be able to print a document. So with that, let's go ahead and start. The first step that an IT administrator will receive is an email from Beacon asking them to activate their account. And then in this email, they'll receive a link to set up their account. And I'm going to go ahead and click on this link, which will direct me to a page that asks me to set my password. And we'll see how good I am at retyping my password. And because I am the first user of the system, I need to review and accept the end user license agreement. And as you can see here, I have the ability to scroll through. But at this point, I'm just going to accept and continue. And what you'll see here is it's dropping into the setup guide for Secure Print, which is where an end user would start, or excuse me, an IT administrator would start their experience. So the first step in the process is a site encryption key. Every customer is granted their own unique site encryption key, and that site encryption key is used to encrypt and decrypt print jobs that are stored on the workstation, and if cloud storage is enabled, when the document leaves their network and goes to the cloud. And in this part, you'll want to do save the file, email the file. Make sure you save this in an important place because this site encryption key is only known by the customer. So Pharos, who administrators the Beacon system, does not have access to this key. And if you lose that key, you may have to reset your key for you.
Okay, so put that in a safe place.
It definitely needs to be in a very safe place. So once you save that key, you need to confirm that you have saved the key by checking this box and clicking the confirm button. So you can't accidentally get through this step without. So the next step in the process is to define the network printers on your that you want to scan. And for this demo, I'm going to keep it pretty simple, and I'm just going to scan our local network range. So it's going to go out and scan all the IP addresses within the Pharos Rochester office.
So, Jim, I have a question.
Sure.
Before you checked that box,
Yes.
I noticed the import button was lit up.
Yeah.
Is that where I can just import a whole list of IP?
That's right. Yeah. So you have the ability to either manually add IP ranges or even exclude IP ranges. And as you mentioned, if you have a list of IP addresses, you can import those into this list.
Perfect.
But for today, we're going to keep it simple and just scan the entire Pharos Rochester office. So the next step in the process is to download the device Scalp. I'm just going to click the download button and then talk about the device Scalp. So the device Scalp is the tool that is going to go out and scan for network printers on the Pharos network. And it will discover the printers and capture information about those printers, such as the make, the model, the meter counts, the consumables such as toner levels, etc. So what I'm going to do here is click OK to save this file. And this is typically installed on a server. And I do have a server VM set up to install this on. So I'm going to copy this file over to my VM. And I'm just going to check to see if Windows is blocking this file. It is not. If it were blocked, there would be an unblock checkbox here, and I'd want to unblock it before continuing. At this point, I'm just going to extract all. And as you would expect for software, there's a setup.exe file. I'm just going to go ahead and run this file. And there's not a lot of options installing the device Scout, as you'll see here. There's a welcome screen. There's the license agreement. It's the same license agreement that we selected when we first logged into the website. It asks me where I want to install. I'm going to select the default destination folder. And then I have my install button. I'm going to go ahead and just let this install. It'll take a minute or so to complete. And once it completes, it will register with the cloud. And we'll see a pop-up window where it's registering with the cloud. And what we'll see once this install completes and we go back to the setup guide, as each step completes, it'll put a check mark and take us on to the next step in the wizard. So as I mentioned, once the installation completes, it will register itself with the cloud. And this can take between a few seconds and a minute or so to complete. All right. So at this point, we're ready to start scanning the network for printers. And before I do that, I just want to toggle back to the application and show how as we've gone along, there's check marks being enabled, and it takes us to the next step in the process. So if I got distracted at this point, I would know exactly where I was in the setup guide if I were to continue at a later point. So let's go ahead and have this scan, and what you'll see here is there's about 1,000 IP addresses that it's going to scan for, and it estimates will take about a minute to complete. So this process in general is not an intensive process. Even a site that has several thousand IP address ranges, it will complete within minutes. And I expect that we'll get somewhere around 50 or so printers in this list, depending on how many printers are online. Once the scan is complete, it loads it automatically to the cloud, and we can see here that it was 44 devices that it discovered that are online at the moment. And you can see in our office we have all different manufacturers, makes, and models. So as long as it's a network printer that has SNMP enabled, we'll be able to scan for it. So at this point, I could wait for the system to figure out that we have scanned, but I'm going to jump ahead and get to the next step in the process, which is to download Print Scout. So the Print Scout is the other component that gets installed, and this time it gets installed on users' workstations rather than on a server. And as you can see here, we support both Windows and Mac. So environments that have both Mac users and Windows users will be able to take advantage of Beacon Mobile Print.
I know we have a mix of those users at Fair Oaks.
We do, yes. And you may have noticed while this was downloading that it detected that the printers were discovered and put a green check mark on those. And we'll see I now have a second download file. And this time I'm going to copy this file. And I'm going to go over to my Windows 10 VM. So this is analogous to a Windows user. So now that we've copied this file over, the first step that we need to do is ensure that this file is not blocked. As we can see here, there's no block checkbox so we know we're in good shape. We can go ahead and extract this file. And just like the Device Scout installer, there's an installer executable. We're going to go ahead and launch that. And the installer will be very similar to the Device Scout. We'll have a similar set of screens that we'll see here. So just like before, we have a welcome screen. We have the end user license agreement. And then we click install. And this will take a minute or so to complete. So this is a little bit more of an installer than the Device Scout. So we just need to be patient here. Once it finishes, just like the Device Scout, it'll open up a registration screen and register itself with the cloud. And as this completes, the Print Scout is an agent that gets installed on the user's workstation and is what enables the user to send a document from their PC or their Mac to then be able to release their document at a printer. It will create a new printer called Faro Secure Printer, and that is the printer users will submit their jobs to in order to then be able to release it when they walk up to a printer. All right, so I'm going ahead and click Finish. And once this finishes, it will launch the registration screen. And we'll see that we have successfully registered our workstation with the cloud. So at this point, we can go back and we'll see that we have now successfully completed the installation of the on-premises components, which included the Device Scout and the Print Scout. So now we're on to configuring Century Print. And in the first step, you'll see there are Century Print options. And because we are just doing Century Beacon mobile print, the Century Print options are not licensed and thus disabled. The next step in the process is to secure the printers. And to secure the printers, I'm just simply going to select all the printers in the list, then click the Secure Printers button. And you'll see there's one available option, which is mobile. And I'm just going to move it from the available column to the enabled column. And once I click the Secure button, it'll take a couple seconds here, but we'll watch all the devices get secured. And it really is that fast because we're not actually securing the printer. What we're doing is enabling the printer to be secured for a QR code.
Okay.
So in the installation, it talks about after securing the printers to generate the QR codes. And because we have the window already open, I'm just going to go ahead and click on the Generate QR code. And what you'll see here is it will ask me to download a PDF. And I'm just going to go ahead and open up this PDF directly from the download. And what you'll see here is a label gets created for each of the printers in the list. There's 44 printers that we discovered. There's 10 labels per sheet. Each label is a 2-inch by 4-inch label. There's a standard Avery label template that can be used that you would print out and you can attach to this printer.
So, Jim, I have a question. So
Sure.
that's the Pharaoh's torch.
It is.
So I know we want that on our printers because that's part of our logo. But does everyone end up with that torch, or can they put their own image or company logo on it?
Sure. Yeah. So this is the default, but there is the ability to customize the QR code label to, for example, put your company logo on. You can also change the orientation. So maybe you want to have it vertical rather than horizontal. So there are several options for customizing the label, and we do have another video that walks through that step. So what I'm going to do here at this point is now that I have secured the printers and generated the QR codes, I'm going to toggle out of here, and what you'll see is it has selected that I have completed these steps. And then the third part of this process is deploying the Print Scout to all users and then inviting them to use the system. I'm not going to go through the deployment of the Print Scouts today because I have just a single workstation. But what you would do is use the deployment files with a software deployment tool to push this out to all users' workstations. And what I'm just going to show is how the deployment files get created from this seed workstation. So I have the Print Scout configuration utility open, and there's an option under the file menu to create a deployment settings file. And then it tells me where that file is plus the installer. And at this point, you would provide these two files to your software deployment team, and they would be able to build a package to deploy to a Windows and a Mac, depending on the operating system of the users. But again, we're not going to go through the deployment here. This gets you up through the actual deployment. And then the second step is to invite users. And the recommendation is to send the template to yourself and then modify it for your message that you want to send out to the users. So I have sent it to my user account here. I'm going to go back into the mailbox. And what you'll see here is here's the template that got sent to me. And we give you a template from which you can then customize and use when you're ready to have other users of the system start using Pharos mobile print. So at this point, we have actually completed all the steps. Sorry, let me go back over here. We have now completed all the steps of the Century Print Setup Guide from an IT administrator's perspective. Now we're ready to change hats and become an end user.
All right.
And at this point, I'm going to flip over to the Windows workstation. And that installation of the Print Scout, it installed two apps on my workstation. And the one that I want to launch is the Pharos Century Print Setup Guide. And once this launches, the first step in the process is email enrollment. And it'll ask me to enter my email and then verify my email address. And I'm going to come back over to my inbox, and I now have a Century Print email verification message. And when I click on this message, it gives me the ability to confirm the email address or enter in a 6-digit verification code. And because I want to show the verification code step, I'm going to manually enter it. 0, 3, 6,
966.
966. And the next step in the process is to set a user PIN. This user PIN won't be used for mobile print, but it's still a required step because if we move on to using Century Print, the PIN will come into play. So at this point, I've completed the email enrollment. I've set my PIN, and now I'm ready to activate my mobile device. To do that, I'm going to launch the mobile option, and it tells me there are 3 steps in this process. First, I need to print a test page, then I activate my mobile device, and then finally I'll release the test page. So let's get started. On the first screen, it will print a test page, and in this case, it'll make the Pharos Secure Printer my default printer because I have selected this checkbox. And when I click on the Print Test page, it will open up the Windows Print dialog, and it will have selected the Pharos Secure Printer as my default printer. I'm going to click Print, and it'll send a test print page. It now tells me my document is held for printing, and I'm ready to activate my mobile device. So in this next step, to activate my mobile device, it is the three-step process. I will first install the app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. I will scan the QR code and then enter the 4-digit PIN that displays on the mobile app. Let's go ahead and pull up my phone. And what we'll see here is I have Faro Century Print app searched for and ready to install from the iOS App Store. And I'm going to go ahead and install this app. I'm going to click Open. And it's going to tell me that I need to scan the QR code. And in order to do that, I need to access my camera. And it scans the code and generates a 4-digit PIN. And now it tells me my device is activated. And in the next screen, it tells me I need to scan the QR code on the printer to release my test print. In order to do that, I'm going to go back to the application. And I'm going to go back to generating the QR code label. And I'm going to generate a label just for this one printer. So let's go ahead and we'll sort by, generate a QR code. And what we'll see is I have my one QR code. I'll blow this up just a little bit. And if I go back to my phone, I'm going to move my phone over to this side. And I'm going to go ahead and scan this document. And out comes my document.
Hopefully everyone heard that come out on the printer and
That's
saw on
correct.
the webcam that a piece of paper came out.
And we can show the document here. And I can go ahead and click Finish. And I have completed both the IT administrator steps and the end user steps. And with that, I'll turn it over to you.
So that did seem pretty quick and easy. I asked if you could do it before I finished my glass of water, and you did that. So good job. So Jim, thank you for taking us through the installation of Beacon Mobile Print. And for everyone watching, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at future events and watching more videos that we'll be sharing with everyone. Thank you.